It's late again. The kind of late where everything is quiet and the silence isn't peaceful, it's loud. You're lying in bed, eyes fixed on a ceiling you've memorized like scripture, asking the question that keeps returning like a whisper you can't escape. Why is it taking so long? You're not asking for a fairy tale, you're not expecting perfection, just someone whose presence feels like exhale, someone to meet you where you are. No masks, no games, just truth. But night after night, all that meets you is the hollow hum of time passing and the aching sense that something sacred is being withheld. It's not about desperation. It's deeper than that. It's about walking through life with arms full of love and nowhere to place it. About seeing people who don't even know how to hold themselves, being held. It's watching rushed relationships form and fall apart while you wait, not just patiently, but intentionally. You've done the inner work, you've read the books, healed the wounds, cried the tears that no one saw. You've cleaned out the rooms of your soul to make space, and still, nothing. And that's what stings, not the loneliness, but the emptiness after all that effort. There's a strange grief in becoming someone ready for a love that hasn't arrived. A subtle mourning of all the moments you imagined sharing with someone who exists somewhere, but never here, never now. And you begin to wonder if the universe forgot, or worse, if it's punishing you for something you no longer remember. But maybe, just maybe, it's not punishment. Maybe it's protection. Because what if the delay isn't a denial, but a recalibration? What if it's the universe rearranging pieces not to frustrate you, but to align you? What if there's more happening in the silence than you know? You're not behind. You're not unworthy. You're not unloved. You're in the tension between longing and becoming. And while it hurts, while it sometimes feels unbearable, there's something sacred about this space. Because longing, when met with self-awareness, becomes preparation, and pain, when given meaning, becomes power. So if tonight you find yourself asking again, why is it taking so long? Remember, sometimes love doesn't arrive when you want it to. It arrives when you're finally ready to receive it fully without losing yourself in the process. Carl Jung believed that wholeness isn't something you're born into, it's something you earn, piece by piece, shadow by shadow. The self, he said, isn't found in a moment of clarity, but forged in the fire of deep inner confrontation. And that's why love, true love, can never arrive on demand. Because love is not a reward, it's a reflection. It doesn't come when you want it to. It comes when your soul is ready to hold it without collapsing under its weight. There is a difference between wanting love and being prepared for it. The wanting is easy. It's emotional, reactive, hungry. But readiness? That's spiritual. That's a soul standing fully in its truth, not begging for affection, but embodying it. And that is what the universe waits for. Not for your loneliness to grow unbearable, but for your identity to solidify, not around someone else, but around yourself. Jung called this individuation, the sacred process of becoming who you truly are, apart from the roles, expectations, and projections of the world around you. And here's the truth few will tell you. Until you've walked that path, until you've gathered the lost parts of your psyche and made peace with your inner contradictions, you will always attract from your wounds, not your worth. You will call in people who echo your chaos, not your clarity. The universe isn't withholding love to be cruel. It's waiting until what you attract won't destroy what you've become. Individuation is not a spiritual buzzword. It's a full-body initiation. It's sitting with your loneliness without filling it with noise. It's facing your fears without needing someone to hold your hand. It's learning to mother your own inner child, to father your own dreams, to romance your own soul. Because when you do, you stop looking for someone to rescue you and start preparing to meet someone who sees you as you are, not who they want you to be. That's when love shifts from being a fantasy to a mirror. That's when the universe opens its hand. Because love, real love, isn't something you chase. It's something that arrives when your soul stops running from itself. And maybe that's why it's taken so long, not because it isn't coming, but because the person you're becoming is the one who can finally hold it. We don't like to admit it, but sometimes love shows up too soon. And when it does, it doesn't feel like magic. It feels like confusion wrapped in chemistry. You think it's everything you ever wanted, only to realize later it came as a test, not a blessing. Because love, when it arrives before you're ready, doesn't expand you. It distracts you. It pulls you away from the very path you were just beginning to walk with clarity. And that's why the universe delays it, not to punish you, but to protect what's still taking shape inside of you. How many times have you looked back and thought, if that relationship had worked out, I would have lost myself? That's not bitterness, it's wisdom. Because premature love doesn't ask you to grow, it asks you to compromise. It wants the version of you that still bends too much, gives too quickly, and silences the parts of yourself that haven't fully learned how to speak. That kind of love might feel intense, but intensity isn't intimacy, it's urgency. It's the rush to feel whole without doing the work to become whole first. The universe sees what you cannot. It knows when a connection would become a cage, when passion would poison your peace, and when affection would anchor you in a life that isn't truly yours. So it steps in. Not with explanations, but with silence, with space, with a strange, sacred emptiness that makes you question everything. But what if that silence is divine strategy? What if love hasn't come yet because the universe refuses to let you betray yourself again? You're not being punished. You're being preserved. You're being given time to rise into the person who won't abandon themselves for connection, who won't confuse being chosen with being seen, because when love is real, it won't derail your path. It will deepen it. It won't distract you from your purpose. It will harmonize with it. So if you're still waiting, breathe. Let the ache be your altar. Trust that the universe isn't late. It's loyal. Loyal to the version of you that you are still in the sacred process of becoming. And until that version is ready, love will wait. Because real love doesn't rush. It arrives when it can stay. There is a reason you keep attracting the same kind of love in different bodies. There's a reason it feels like you're running in emotional circles, starting with hope, ending in disappointment, always repeating some version of the same lesson. And that reason isn't fate. It's the wound, the one you don't talk about, the one you think you've buried. But as Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. What you haven't healed will keep showing up over and over until you finally face it. Most people don't fall in love. They fall into patterns. And those patterns are written not by desire, but by pain. Childhood pain, abandonment pain, the pain of not being seen, of being too much or not enough, of earning love through performance instead of presence. These early experiences don't just live in your memory. They live in your nervous system. They become the blueprint. And unless they're addressed, you will keep mistaking familiarity for chemistry. You will call anxiety butterflies. You will chase what wounds you simply because it feels like home. That's why love hasn't come yet. Not because you're broken, but because your healing is still incomplete. The universe won't send you someone just to soothe your triggers. It wants to see those triggers no longer controlling you. It wants to see you love from your center, not your scars. Because when you're still operating from unhealed wounds, you won't recognize healthy love. You'll reject it. You'll find it boring, suspicious, too slow. You'll sabotage what's good because chaos is what you're used to. So the delay is mercy. It's the universe giving you space to rewrite the story before another character enters the scene. It's your invitation to look inward, not to find flaws, but to understand the patterns. To hold the inner child who's still waiting for love in the same way she once wished a parent would offer it. This is the work. This is the path. And once you begin walking it, love will stop looking like survival and start feeling like peace. Because the moment you stop calling your wounds destiny, you open the door to something radically different. Not love that fills a hole, but love that celebrates your wholeness. And that kind of love never arrives early, it arrives right on time. There was a time you thought you had to become someone else to be loved. Softer, smaller, smiling when it hurt. You wore the right clothes, said the right things, stayed quiet when your soul screamed for expression. Not because you were fake, but because somewhere along the way you learned that authenticity was dangerous, that showing your full self might mean being abandoned. So you built a mask. And maybe for a while it worked. You got attention, you got affection. You even got close to love, but it never lasted. Because masks attract mirrors, not soulmates. Carl Jung called this the persona, the version of ourselves we create to survive in the world. It's not a lie, it's just incomplete. It's who we learn to be to stay safe, accepted, valued. But the cost of that safety is steep, because the love that finds your persona will never touch your essence. It will praise your image, not your soul. And one day, you'll wake up beside someone who knows everything about your surface, but nothing about your storm. And that's the kind of emptiness no amount of validation can fix. That's why the universe delays real love, not to test your patience, but to strip away the parts of you that were never real to begin with. It's not interested in sending love to your mask. It's waiting for the moment you take it off. The moment you stop performing and start being. The moment you decide that being fully yourself, even if it means being alone, is better than being half-loved for a version of you that doesn't even exist anymore. Love delayed is not love denied. It's alignment. It's the sacred pause between who you were and who you are becoming. The universe doesn't want you in relationships that feed your ego but starve your soul. It wants something deeper, something that meets you where you truly live, beneath the mask in the raw, unfiltered place where your truest self resides. And that kind of love only finds you when you are brave enough to be seen. So if love hasn't arrived yet, don't panic. Ask yourself, have I really shown up yet? Because when you do, the love that meets you won't just recognize you. It will stay. Heartbreak feels final, like something sacred just slipped through your fingers and left you standing in the ruins, trying to make sense of what went wrong. But what if it didn't go wrong? What if it went right, just not in the way you expected? What if that breakup, that ghosting, that missed connection wasn't the universe closing a door, but redirecting you before you walked into a room that would have undone you? The ego takes rejection personally. It says, I wasn't enough. I should have done more. I must be broken. But the soul sees differently. It whispers, this wasn't love. It was a lesson. And when you really pause, when you stop chasing closure and start seeking clarity, you realize that what felt like rejection was actually protection. Divine intervention in disguise. Carl Jung taught that there are no coincidences, only synchronicities, meaningful patterns that emerge when we pay attention. That person who left you? Maybe they arrived not to stay, but to wake something up, to trigger an old wound you needed to face, to bring you closer to the version of yourself that doesn't beg for breadcrumbs, but demands the banquet of real, aligned connection. So many of us mistake pain for punishment. But the universe isn't cruel. It's precise. It doesn't remove people to hurt you. It removes them to prepare you. Every no you didn't understand, every silence that left you spiraling, every door that never opened, they weren't rejections. They were reroutes. Love is a map, not a straight line. And sometimes the path you thought would lead to peace was actually a detour to another dead end. You're not being overlooked. You're being guided. Sometimes what feels like the wrong turn is the only way to the right place. So the next time someone walks away or something falls apart, take a breath. Don't chase what left. Ask instead, what is this making room for? Because life has a way of pulling away what doesn't serve you just before it sends what finally will. Missed connections aren't failures. They're threads in a greater weave you're not meant to fully understand yet. But one day it will all click. The redirection will reveal its purpose, and you'll realize nothing was ever lost. It was all leading you home. There's a loneliness no one talks about. Not the kind where you wish someone would text you back or sit beside you on the couch, but the kind where your soul aches for someone who sees you, really sees you, where you're surrounded by people and still feel like a language no one speaks. Carl Jung once wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important." And in that space, in that sacred silence, something powerful begins to happen. We're taught to fill loneliness as fast as possible. Call someone, go on a date, scroll through endless faces trying to find one that makes the ache go away. But what if the ache isn't something to be solved? What if it's a sacred invitation? What if loneliness is the space where the real work begins? The alchemy, the turning inward. Because the truth is, if you're constantly trying to escape yourself, you'll keep attracting people who help you do exactly that. Distractions, not partners. Solitude, when embraced consciously, becomes a sanctuary. It's where you learn to meet your own needs before expecting someone else to do it for you. It's where you learn to comfort your fears, celebrate your joy, listen to your inner voice instead of drowning it in noise. This is the sacred preparation. The soul's deep inhale before it chooses to merge with another. We talk a lot about finding the one, but what if the first true union is internal? The marriage between your light and your shadow, your strength and your softness, your wounds and your wisdom. Outer union without inner union is a shortcut to self-abandonment. But when you've already held space for your own wholeness, love no longer arrives to complete you. It arrives to complement what's already intact. So if you're alone right now, not just physically but emotionally, don't rush to fill the gap. Sit with it. Listen. There's a version of you waiting to be discovered in the quiet. A version of you that doesn't settle for noise because she finally knows the value of her own silence. Sacred loneliness is not a curse, it's a chrysalis. And the love that follows it? It's not ordinary, it's transformative. Because it will meet a soul that has already met itself. Not all the love stories you carry began with you. Some started long before you were born, etched into the fabric of your family, passed down through generations like invisible heirlooms, silent agreements, emotional debts, scripts that repeat themselves in different names, different faces, but always the same heartbreak, and you, without even realizing it, have been reenacting someone else's pain. That's why the universe has pressed pause, not to hold you back, but to give you the chance to break the cycle. Every family carries patterns. Some teach you that love must be earned. That sacrifice equals worth. That silence keeps the peace. Others show you how to chase unavailable people, to confuse chaos with connection, to stay loyal to pain because it feels like home. These are inherited emotional blueprints, not your fault, but still your responsibility. Because if you don't interrupt the pattern, you become it. You pass it on. Carl Jung knew this well. He believed that until the unconscious becomes conscious, it runs your life. And family wounding is the deepest unconscious of all. You're not just healing your heart. You're healing the echo of your grandmother's grief, your mother's silence, your father's absence. The universe isn't stalling your love life. It's inviting you to rewrite the story before it writes itself again through you. Love delayed isn't a punishment. It's protection. It's a pause long enough for you to look backward before you move forward. Because if you don't understand the emotional inheritance you've received, you'll keep choosing it over and over. The same abandonment in different forms, the same control disguised as care, the same fear wearing the mask of romance. But once you see it, once you name it, the pattern begins to lose its power. This is your time to choose differently, to choose yourself, not survival, to choose peace, not performance, to end the generational contract that said you must suffer to be loved. And that takes courage, that takes solitude, that takes walking away from what's familiar so you can create something that's truly yours. You are not here to repeat the pain. You are here to transcend it. And the delay? It's just the space you need to make sure that the next chapter isn't haunted by an old script. This time, the story gets to be yours. There's a shift that happens, quietly, powerfully, when you stop looking for someone to save you and start becoming the kind of love you've always longed for. At first, it feels subtle. You stop waiting for texts that never come. You stop shrinking to be chosen. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's attention. And in that space, something sacred begins to rise. You begin to see yourself, not through the lens of scarcity, but of sufficiency. Not as someone waiting to be loved, but as someone already pulsing with it. You realize that the love you seek has never been outside of you. It's been calling you inward all along. Because the truth is, love is a mirror. Who you are internally is what you attract. Your self-belief, your boundaries, your presence, these are the invitations you send into the world. And the universe? It doesn't ignore those signals. It listens. It waits. It holds back the love you think you want until you've stepped into the version of yourself that can receive what you actually deserve. You've chased before, haven't you? You've bent, overextended, tried to earn what should have been freely given, and maybe you thought that made you devoted. But it didn't. It made you dependent. And the universe, in its quiet wisdom, said, not yet. Not until you stop seeing love as something to achieve. Not until you learn to sit with yourself without needing to be seen to feel real. That's when the magic begins. That's when you start attracting not from your wounds, but from your wholeness. Because once you become the love you seek, you stop tolerating what doesn't reflect it. You stop settling for almosts. You stop begging for crumbs. And suddenly the universe responds, not to your longing, but to your embodiment. Love shows up not as a rescue, but as a resonance. Someone who meets you, not to complete you, but to walk with you, as equals, as mirrors, as reflections of what you've cultivated within. So if love hasn't arrived, maybe the question isn't, where is it? Maybe it's, where am I still abandoning myself? The delay isn't rejection, it's a sacred invitation to return to you. Because once you become the love, love has no choice but to find you. There's a danger in wanting love so badly that you start creating people in your mind who don't exist in real life. You meet someone, feel a spark, and before you've even heard their truth, you're already imagining the story, filling in the blanks with fantasy, assigning meaning to gestures that were never promises. And without realizing it, you're no longer loving them. You're loving an idea, a projection, a version of them carefully sculpted by your unmet needs. Carl Jung taught that what we don't recognize in ourselves, we project onto others. It's why someone's silence feels like rejection, or someone's attention feels like destiny. You're not seeing them. You're seeing yourself reflected through the lens of desire, fear, hope, or pain. And the universe, patient and exacting, holds love back until you're able to see clearly, until you can separate reality from illusion, until you stop trying to be saved and start seeking to see. Because real love isn't blind. It's awake. It doesn't overlook red flags because the chemistry is intense. It doesn't romanticize the bare minimum. It doesn't beg for potential to one day bloom. It stands in front of another human being and says, I see you not as I wish you were, but as you are. And to reach that point, you must first do that with yourself. You must unmask the projections you place on others and the roles you perform for their approval. That's why the delay is necessary. It's not punishment, it's protection. The universe knows that projection leads to pain. It ends in confusion, disappointment, and the aching realization that you never really loved them. You loved who you needed them to be. But once the projection ends, something beautiful begins. Intimacy, truth, presence. You stop needing the other person to fix you and start witnessing them in their full, flawed humanity. Love that lasts doesn't come from fantasy. It comes from alignment. Two people who have stopped playing roles, stopped projecting dreams onto blank slates, and started showing up as themselves, raw, honest, whole. If love hasn't come, perhaps it's because you're still seeing people through the lens of who you want them to be. But once you drop the projection, love doesn't have to hide anymore. It can meet you, fully, clearly, and without disguise. We often search for balance in another, forgetting that it must first exist within ourselves. You say you want a strong man, a safe love, a woman who sees you, a partner who understands the language of both strength and softness. But have you stopped to ask, do those energies already live inside you? Carl Jung spoke of the anima and animus, the feminine in the man, the masculine in the woman. These aren't just spiritual ideas. They're the inner forces that shape how we show up, how we give, how we receive, how we love. Your inner masculine is the part of you that moves with direction, discipline, structure. It's the part that protects, decides, holds. Your inner feminine is the part that feels, flows, creates. It receives. It trusts. When one dominates, love becomes distorted. When the masculine rules unbalanced, love becomes control. When the feminine overwhelms, love becomes chaos. But when both are in sacred dialogue, when your inner energies are married, you no longer seek in another what you've denied in yourself. The love you desire cannot enter a fractured house. If you're stuck in survival mode, overgiving to prove your worth, you're in wounded feminine. If you're guarded, emotionally numb, hyper-independent, you're in wounded masculine. And that wounded energy attracts the same, partners who mirror your imbalance, not your essence. This is why the universe delays love, not to frustrate, but to prepare. It won't send you someone whole until you've begun integrating your own halves. When you balance the inner masculine, you stop seeking someone to carry your life for you. When you nurture your feminine, you stop attracting people who exploit your softness. You move from need to choice, from performance to presence. This is the alchemy Jung pointed toward, union within. And once that sacred equilibrium is restored, you don't just attract love, you become it. Magnetic, grounded, clear. Because you're no longer looking for someone to complete your polarity. You've become the union you seek. And from that wholeness, something extraordinary happens. The love that arrives doesn't just fit, it matches. Not because you were rescued, but because you were ready. You've probably said it before. If only I'd met them at another time. And maybe that's the truth, because timing isn't just about calendars. It's about capacity. And sometimes the love you think you're ready for would have crumbled under the weight of who you used to be. That's why it didn't come, or why it ended. Not because you didn't deserve it, but because you weren't yet the version of yourself who could hold it without breaking. We talk about alignment as if it's a mystical accident, but it's precise. The universe doesn't deliver love to your longing. It delivers love to your level, not the level of your dreams, but of your self-awareness, your boundaries, your truth. If the right person had shown up too early, they might have met your insecurities instead of your essence. You might have mistaken their calm for disinterest, their stability for boredom, their clarity for control. You would have projected old fears onto something sacred and called it a red flag. That's not failure. It's simply evolution. The love you want requires a version of you that isn't fueled by fear or fantasy, a version that doesn't need constant reassurance, that doesn't collapse into someone else to feel alive. That kind of you doesn't come overnight. It's built slowly, in solitude, in silence, in the wreckage of past relationships that taught you more than they broke you. The delay is mercy. Because there's a becoming that must happen first. You're not just waiting for love. You're becoming someone who won't sabotage it when it finally arrives. You're creating the emotional foundation strong enough to hold the weight of something real. So the next time you wonder why love hasn't found you, ask instead, who am I becoming while I wait? Because one day, the right person will walk in, and they won't find the version of you who begged for attention or chased after crumbs. They'll meet the one who knows her worth, the one who's done the work, and in that meeting, everything will make sense. The delay wasn't a detour, it was design. The love was always yours. It was simply waiting for you to rise into the self who could finally receive it with open hands and a steady heart. It's hard, isn't it? Sitting in the quiet, doing the inner work, healing wounds no one applauds you for, watching others fall into love while you're still being asked to wait. It can feel like nothing is happening, like your prayers are floating unanswered, like all the growth, all the letting go, all the surrender has been for nothing. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not unfolding. The universe doesn't move on your timeline, it moves on alignment. And behind the scenes, something sacred is synchronizing. You're not being ignored, you're being prepared. And so is the one meant for you. Think about it. Real love doesn't just show up because you're lonely. It shows up when you've become the version of yourself that doesn't abandon herself in the face of desire. And they, your person, they're on their own journey too, becoming, shedding, awakening. Maybe they're still in a life they haven't yet outgrown. Maybe they're learning the lessons that will make them worthy of standing beside you without shrinking or controlling. Maybe they're waking up to themselves in the same silence you're sitting in right now. The timelines must sync, not just externally but spiritually. Love without readiness is chaos. It looks like right person, wrong time, but truthfully, it's misalignment dressed as tragedy. And the universe, in all its wisdom, won't allow it, not when what's possible is something lasting, something whole. Trust the invisible, the inner nudges, the sudden shifts, the moments when nothing seems to change, but you feel different. Lighter, clearer, stronger. That's movement. That's the soul realigning with its highest path, and it may not feel dramatic. There may be no fireworks. But the universe doesn't work through noise. It works through order, precision, purpose. You are not being left behind. You're being aligned with someone whose soul is learning the same rhythm. And when the beat finally matches, when your timing echoes theirs, it will feel like you didn't miss a thing. Because what's real never passes you. It arrives exactly when it's meant to. Trust that. Trust the invisible work. Because love, real love, is never random. It's written long before it's revealed. You're not half a person. You never were. But the world teaches you to believe that until someone picks you, you are unfinished, as if love is a puzzle and your edges only make sense when someone else's shape fits into yours. That's a beautiful lie. Romantic, yes. Comforting, maybe. But false. Because the love you truly deserve doesn't come to complete you. It comes to join you. You are not waiting to be made whole. You are already whole. And when you truly understand that, something inside you shifts. You stop settling for connections that only fill the silence. You stop calling toxicity passion. You stop needing someone to rescue you from yourself. You are no longer seeking a savior. You're looking for a mirror. Someone who reflects your growth, not your gaps. Carl Jung believed that the soul craves integration, not division. That true union doesn't come from merging brokenness, but from two whole beings choosing to walk beside one another. And that kind of love, it doesn't cage, it doesn't consume, it doesn't complete you. It amplifies you. It sees your strength and says, I don't need to fix you. I just want to grow with you. The myth of the missing half is seductive, but it's also dangerous, because when you believe you're incomplete, you will accept anyone who offers the illusion of wholeness. You'll compromise, you'll chase, you'll collapse into their story instead of standing firm in your own. But when you know who you are, when you've done the inner work and faced the shadows, you begin to crave a different kind of connection. Not someone to fill your emptiness, but someone to share your fullness. So if love hasn't come yet, ask yourself, am I looking for a partner or a plug for my pain? Because the former waits until you're ready, the latter shows up fast and burns just as quickly. The love that lasts, the love you're being prepared for, is not a rescue mission. It's a resonance, a dance of equals, A merging of sovereign souls who don't need each other to breathe, but choose to exhale together. That's the difference. That's the shift. You're not a half calling in a missing piece. You are a whole calling in a match. And when it arrives, it won't complete your story. It will expand it. One day it does arrive, not with fireworks, not with dramatic entrances or breathless declarations, but with stillness, a quiet recognition. As if your soul exhales and says, "There you are." It doesn't rush. It doesn't force. It doesn't demand that you shrink to fit into its shape. It meets you fully, calmly, at the level you've worked so hard to reach. This love doesn't feel like saving. It feels like seeing. Not the kind of seeing that only notices your beauty, but the kind that honors your becoming. The kind that touches your depth without drowning in it. This love won't make you question your worth. It won't manipulate your softness or mistake your strength for arrogance. It will hold your silence with reverence. It will know that your solitude wasn't a pause in your story. It was the foundation of it. This love will speak the same language your growth taught you. It will not be intimidated by your clarity. It will not retreat from your wholeness. Instead, it will rise to meet it. And here's the most sacred truth. When it finally arrives, you won't feel desperate for it, because you've already met the most important person in your life, yourself. You won't abandon your boundaries just to keep it. You won't sacrifice your peace to sustain it. You'll stand beside it with both feet on the ground, heart open, but rooted in truth. You'll look at each other not with need, but with awe. Not with fear, but with freedom. Because love, real love, doesn't ask you to become less. It invites you to become more. You'll realize the wait wasn't empty. It was divine orchestration. Every delay, every closed door, every lonely night. It was shaping you, preparing you to receive what could never have been held by the version of you who still needed approval to feel alive. And when you look back, you'll no longer say, "Why did it take so long?" You'll whisper something else, something deeper. It was never late. It was always right on time, for the person I had to become first. Because love, the kind that stays, the kind that sees, the kind that frees, it only arrives when you do. And now you have. Welcome to the love that was always yours, just waiting for you to be ready. Want to hear more of this? Then click on the video on the right-hand side, which is even more shocking.